All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
This is the first time that we've conducted the Board of Public Works in a virtual environment. So as I said to the treasurer a little earlier, we are in the future now. And so, this is done virtually as Maryland, as well as the rest of the country, and really the world for that matter, it's in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. And so we are all engaging in social distancing in an effort to slow the spread of this virus and to safeguard our populations, particularly our vulnerable population, those of us who are a little older, as well as those who have compromised immune systems. I know the governor knows that social distancing is an important step for all of us to take in our administration and in government, including limiting mass gatherings, closing schools and certain businesses that attract large numbers of people. And it has been a challenge for many people, all of us. It's been very disruptive to our daily lives, but these are not actions that the administration takes lightly, but they are absolutely necessary to slow down this virus and, as has been often said, flatten the curve so as it won't overwhelm our healthcare system and helps to ensure that we have the space and the resources necessary to treat those who are ill and who will become ill. With this virus, it is largely unknown exactly how we're going to handle it in terms of a cure that's not there yet and potential vaccines. But we have a responsibility to do our part to protect ourselves, our loved ones, as well as the vulnerable populations. And social distancing, as I said, is a major part of that. But I also want to point out that so too is our responsibility to others. And that means not hoarding essential items and supplies, to the degree that it hurts and it harms our neighbors and our friends and our families. We have seen firsthand in the news and social media, and if you've been to a grocery store recently, the response of many people with regard to this stocking up on a lot of items. And there's nothing wrong with buying a couple of extra cans of soup or a few other household items because you're going to be homebound. But when you are buying essentially a year's supply of toilet paper or other products, you really are harming others who may need those very same products. And so we want people to be responsible, watch out for your friends and family, and particularly those who may be in the risk categories. And just to give a brief update on the number of positive coronavirus cases in the state. As of this morning, we have 85 confirmed cases of coronavirus here in Maryland. The majority of those cases, some 78% of them, are in Prince George's and Montgomery County. The 3 original cases that we had, those individuals have been cleared. They are fully recovered. They're no longer in quarantine. And we believe that there are others, many others that we're checking on now, who are also cleared and out of quarantine. We've had hospitalizations. I just want to verify that. We've had 14 hospitalizations, 3 of which have been discharged at this point. And 3 individuals are in ICU, and they came in various conditions that required that type of treatment. But the majority of people that have come down with this ailment are in recovery stages. The majority are at home. Of the 85, 11, as I said, are still hospitalized, but the remainder are at home recovering or have recovered. So there is some good news that we're so far able to handle this situation, and hopefully the steps that we're taking will flatten the curve out and help to keep everyone safe as well as save lives. On a slightly different note, last week, many of you may have received your census documents or the invitation to start filling out your census. I filled out my census, what's today, Wednesday, Monday. For those of us who are empty nesters, it only takes a few minutes to fill out your census, to do it online. I did mine online, and starting last week, it's available for the folks to do it online or over your phone. If you don't do it online or over your phone by the 1st of April, you'll start receiving in the mail the mail-in census form. It's very important that we all are counted. We in the last census, we had somewhere in the 78%, 75% response rate, which meant that the state missed out on a lot of federal assistance that we could have had. It's approximately $18,000 per individual resident of Maryland. And so I'm really encouraging everyone to get on the census.gov website and fill out their census. Madam Treasurer?
Governor, could I ask, I know we talked a couple of meetings ago about the PR and the advertising marketing that's being done for the census.
Yes.
Do you have any sense of how that's going or what more we could do?
I saw a census commercial just last night, as a matter of fact. I have not gone back to ask how many hits, but I know that there's been a substantial buy throughout Maryland. There's kind of a combination and some overlap in the Washington area because the District of Columbia is also doing census advertising. We're also using social media as a way of getting information out, encouraging people, suggesting very strongly that they fill out the census. But we can follow up. I can find out exactly what the response has been.
I would urge, especially since people are not aggregating in the same extent as we expected. I know there was going to be a lot of advertising at MVA offices, for instance.
That's a very good point. And Metro and the bus services.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
That's a very good point that advertising at MVA is not going to do any good since there's no one at MVA right now other than the online service. So yeah, that's something that we can follow up on. Maybe we can get that money back and shift it someplace else.
Thank you. The comptroller, I think, was going to say
yes,
something.
no, thank you, Madam Treasurer and Lieutenant Governor. I want to take a minute and just compliment Governor Hogan. I saw him all over the national news this morning outside of the mansion, giving intelligent, competent, rational, thoughtful, thorough instructions to the state. And
an interesting contrast.
Well, that may be. That's for others down the road, Madam Treasurer, I agree. But I'm particularly proud as a Marylander to see Governor Hogan on national news doing exactly what a good leader should do. I have a couple of comments about the coronavirus pandemic, if I could. It's obviously an unprecedented time in our country's history, and it's very critical that we deal particularly initially with this public health threat. That is the primary and top priority, the health aspect of this pandemic. But I have to say, simultaneous to that, we need to pay attention to the possible permanent damage that we're doing to the economic and financial and fiscal situation here in the state. We have 175,000 businesses in our state. Most of them are small retail businesses. It's not just the restaurants and the bars and taverns. It's everybody is being affected by the understandable public health response. And I'm suggesting that having spoken with more small business owners in the last few days than I can count, I can assure you that in the absence of extraordinary action, simultaneous with the health proposals, we have to do an economic relief plan for our Maryland small businesses. Many of them are going to go under as a result of the economic devastation created by the coronavirus pandemic. And just walk down your community right now. It's like ghost towns all over the state. So I believe that the actions that have been proposed to date simply haven't been enough on the economic front. And I'm not suggesting that that's a higher priority. I'm just saying we need to do both things simultaneously here. To survive for the next 45 days, these businesses need cash to pay their employees, their vendors, their landlords, and the banks. They're going to go under otherwise. So I believe it's imperative that the state of Maryland borrow at a minimum $500 million from the state's rainy day fund and push it out the door as quickly as humanly possible to these business owners. I'm talking about checks going out Monday and Tuesday of next week. And unless we do that, we're going to see thousands of these businesses unable to open whenever the health protections are lifted. These business owners have contacted me already and said, even before all the restrictions, we don't know whether we can survive. So I also believe Congress is talking about federal stimulus relief packages for small businesses. I totally applaud that. But you know, the federal government takes forever. And then when you go to get some money from the federal government, you have to fill out a 30-page application. And then you don't hear for weeks. So God bless the Congress. But these small businesses right now are facing something that's very severe. And the decimation of our small business sector in the state of Maryland would, I believe, catapult us, because it will be mimicked all around the country. We're not unique in this aspect. But we're going to see an economic climate that's more like the 1930s than it was 2009 if we continue along the same route without a big relief plan. That's why we need to act. We need to act fast at the state level, because at the federal level, we're just not going to be able to save the thousands of Maryland employees that are going to be affected by this. If we pass a $500 million small business relief package, I believe we would avoid most of the furloughs, most of the layoffs of our small business folks. Instead of the owners having to pay the banks and the utilities and all their fixed costs, we should relieve them of that for 30 to 60 days. I can't emphasize enough how critical this is. And everyone in Maryland knows that we should have, or let me remind you all, that we have a patriotic responsibility to get on the phone, get on the internet, get on social media, support our local businesses all across the state. They are facing something that we've never seen before, and they've never seen before. There's nobody shopping. It's not just restaurants and bars. I mean, call a restaurant and order something takeout right now to be delivered to your home, even if you don't need it. Spend some money with your restaurants. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something with the rest of the hospitality industry. But I'm talking about every small business all over the state. If you know 4 or 5 small businesses in your community, get on the phone and call them, order something. Might be picked up later on, who knows? But we need to show some loyalty and support. Otherwise, we're going to emerge with this from this chaotic crisis that we're in right now. But we're going to have lost thousands of wonderful small businesses that are the economic goalposts of our communities. And I beg the people of the great state of Maryland to, if you're at home, a lot of people are teleworking, a lot of people are freed up, get on the phone and call 4 or 5 local businesses and order something and pay for it with your credit card. And okay, don't go down and pick it up for a while, but let's do the right thing, and we'll all get through this together. I don't mean to go on about this, but I think the economic consequences obviously are something that we simultaneously have to deal with, as well as the health crisis. Thank you for letting me make that statement, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. It's very important, and we're looking at all efforts to be able to help the business community, because like you mentioned,
I know you are, and you guys are filling in. Nancy, you are too. We're filling in for the lack of preparation at the federal level. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying the whole thing is a chaotic crisis right now. But we need to pick up. We just can't rely on the federal government right now. I think that's what Governor Hogan was saying this morning. We have to do it ourselves. So I urge everybody to think positively about some immediate backstopping of small businesses. We could ask them to pay it back later on, maybe on very liberal
Yeah,
payment
we're looking at all of those.
stabilized, but to leave them out there all by themselves to the mercy of what's going on right now is just criminal, and we need to really do something dramatic. And I emphasize it needs to be done in the next few days.
Okay, thank you.
If it's not raining now, when is it ever going to be raining? I mean, this is just what the rainy day fund was set up for, and we can always pay it back.
Comptroller, we're looking into all of those ideas and more.
Thank you.
Treasurer?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me just add to what the comptroller was saying. When I said that the governor this morning was a significant contrast to others, I was in fact referring to what has come from the White House. And I think we are very fortunate to be in Maryland, a strong state where people do pull together. I know in my community and yours and in the rest of the state, the community is coming together to try to help people who are now homebound, essentially, with shopping and other necessary services. But I do agree that it certainly does look like it's raining out. I hope that we're going to get through this in good order and that the economy will thrive. I'm not yet prepared to give up by any means, but as the Fed said last week, they have done what they can, although they have a few more tricks left in their house, but the rest depends on fiscal action, and fiscal action includes exactly the sort of program that we saw come too late elsewhere and too late historically in the United States at the time of the Great Depression. But if we act now, and I know both the legislature, including with the creation of a special committee while they are out of session, a special committee to oversee and direct their role in dealing with the coronavirus, and the executive branch working together under the leadership of the governor and Lieutenant Governor Rutherford, and all of the departments coming together. I see Bobby Neal is now a field general, I think, if there were such a post in Maryland, that we will pull through and we'll do it in good order. And I hope our children and grandchildren will say, as they think of what we did now, just as when they think of how we finally began to combat the challenge of climate change, that we did the right thing.
Okay.
Thank
So
you,
good
Ben.
morning.
Great.
To see
Good
you.
morning.
On that
Okay.
happy note, what's on the agenda?
Well,
Yeah.
before doing that, in the interest of making sure that we're in compliance with open meetings, I want to just state who's in the room with me. I have Valerie Radowski. She is our Board of Public Works liaison. Patrick Siebert is here, and my Deputy Chief of Staff, Courtney Highsmith, are in the room with me. And I would ask that if there's anyone in your room with you, you should identify them.
Yes, I have my indispensable Board of Public Works assistant, Ann Clays, who is with us, Susan O'Brien from Communications, and Gary Ellison. So we're at your service.
And you don't have the fabulous Manny there, by any chance?
Manny is, I think, teleworking or whatever we call it. I'm in close communication with Manny. I'll tell him that he's watching this, so he'll be delighted he got mentioned.
Hi, Manny. I have Joanna Gilley and Megan Schutz sitting in with me here.
Okay. So for the Secretary's agenda, John?
Hi, good morning, Governor, Madam Treasurer, Mr. Comptroller. We have 12 items on the Secretary's agenda. Good morning, Governor, Madam Treasurer, Mr. Comptroller. We have 12 items on the Secretary's agenda and one report of an emergency procurement. I'm happy to assist with answering any questions.
I don't have any questions on any of the agenda items, so I'm happy to have a standing vote to approve, but I want to defer to the treasurer and the lieutenant governor. I know we need to make sure we do our due diligence, but I've looked carefully at everything, Lieutenant Governor, on this agenda. And just consider my motion to be a standing motion to approve unless you or the treasurer have something on these.
On the secretary's agenda, I don't have any questions.
Madam Treasurer, you,
No, I'm okay on the secretary's agenda, although I did have a question of the university regarding its,
I have many questions on the university's agenda.
fine. I can, they're more general, I can raise them when we get to the university agenda.
terrific. I'd move approval then of the secretary's agenda.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we're all in favor. Okay, Department of Natural Resources. Is the secretary on? There she is. There she was.
Yeah. Wow,
Good morning.
that is.
You're
Technical difficulties.
You're muted. Still don't hear you.
Oh.
There we are. There you are. Uh-oh.
No,
Can I just say I recommend that we vote approval of the secretary's
Okay.
agenda, and
Can you hear me?
if there's a second vote,
Now we hear you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. For the record, Jeannie Hadaway-Riccio, Secretary of Department of Natural Resources. We have 14 items on our real property agenda today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
move approval.
after that, we should have a question, but I second the comptroller's motion.
Well, before going there, I do want to ask or talk a little bit about 10A. I had some questions. I think they've mostly been addressed, but the hatchery, brown trout hatchery that we've been leasing, the state has been leasing the land for the hatchery since the 1960s. And I wanted to know if there are other places where the brown trout are natural, where they are swimming and breeding and spawning in the wild, so to speak.
Thank you, Governor, for that question. We're really proud of our fisheries hatchery program. We have some really excellent staff that have been working on these projects for a very long time, supporting over 24 species through a variety of strategies. And as you referenced, the Cushwa hatchery in particular, when it comes to brown trout, they stock 43,000 adults and 75,000 juveniles every year just from this one facility. I believe we have Brian Richardson from our fisheries team on the phone who can add a little bit more detail about brown trout in natural settings.
Brian? There we go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so the question was where do we have brown trout naturally spawning right now?
Correct.
Yeah, so throughout the state, there's various locations. I think we've documented them in about 29 different major watersheds. Some are very successful in reproducing, some are less successful, and we also stock in those areas as well.
How's the Yakahani? There brown trout there as well?
Yes, we stock a lot of our fingerling brown trout, the juvenile brown trout, into the Yakahani, and it's very successful. They grow well there and produce lots of successful trophy-sized trout.
Well, I mentioned that in particular, as the secretary knows, that in part of my tour of the state parks, we went to Yakahani, and it's a beautiful area out in Western Maryland. And I was told that there are brown trout there. Now, you said you stock there. Are there some that are native there as well?
Yes, I believe we do have reproducing populations out there.
That was all my questions there. I don't know what other sound that is.
I just want to compliment the secretary. I and the treasurer, I believe, served with her in the legislature. I know I did, and thank you for running a tight ship. The state parks and the state natural resources are such a huge asset for our wonderful state. So Secretary Hadaway Riccio, thank you for your good leadership.
Thank you very much. We have a great team.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'm looking for good news. I just noticed the memo that you sent, the newsletter that you all sent out to everyone about Maryland's endangered tiger salamanders stage a comeback. It was one of the few times when we actually have brought back or preserved a species at a time when people thought they were going under. And I see you moving some papers around. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Sure.
I just think it's a story people should hear and know.
Well, thank you very much for your interest in this. As many people know, eagles and ospreys are a great American comeback story. And right here in Maryland, we're working on our own comeback story with this cute little guy here, the eastern tiger salamander. I don't know if you can see him or not, but they are coming back since we've been doing a lot of work to restore lost habitat. This habitat is very unique to the Eastern Shore. They are actually small elliptical depressions that only occur in the Delmarva region. And thanks to your support on programs such as Program Open Space and Rural Legacy, where we're conserving land, we're able to help this species recover. And hopefully we'll have a really great story at the end of the day, and maybe we'll even be able to take them off of the endangered list.
That would be terrific. That's really good news. Thanks.
In support of the salamanders, I would vote approval of your agenda, or move approval.
Thank you very much.
We have a second? Okay, all in favor? So
Aye.
we're all, okay, all approved. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Remember
Thank
the
you.
tiger salamander.
Remember the tiger salamander. Very good. Okay, University of Maryland system. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Joe Evans, representing the University System of Maryland. We have 5 items on the agenda, here to answer any questions.
Okay. I have a question on 2RP, or I have a couple of questions. Actually on 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, Ed McGinnis, the Assistant Vice President for Real Estate at College Park, would be the speaker on all 3 of those items.
Okay. How did Core Campus manager get involved in this project? You're surplusing the land with the intent to sell it to Core Campus manager. How did they get this opportunity?
Good morning. Core Campus Manager is basically acquired the neighboring half acre of property. So they are consolidating their half acre with our quarter acre. That creates the appropriate mass in order to develop the project that's described.
Okay, Ed, can you identify yourself again, just for the record?
So, you caught me off guard because I don't see myself on the screen. It's a little confusing. Ed McGinnis, Assistant Vice President, Real Estate, University of Maryland, College Park.
Okay. So Core Campus Manager is purchasing the adjoining property?
That is correct. They have the adjoining property under a purchase and sale agreement already.
Who are they purchasing that from?
A private owner.
Okay. It's not the university that owns that property.
Not the university, that's exactly right. It's a private owner. And I also want to point out that the property that we're talking about is, if you go to College Park, this is sort of in the old Knox box neighborhood. So we're continuing to tear down the Knox boxes, which are 1950 era, very poorly maintained. There were actually a couple students that were killed in fires in these properties about 10, 15 years ago. So it's just a continuation of sort of bringing College Park up to the 21st century and just improving what it looks like right now.
Okay. And this property is a good little ways from the property involved in 3RP and 4RP, correct?
It's probably about a half mile away, but it's not immediately adjacent.
Okay. All right. Now, at this point, you've already gone through, excuse me, the process of accessing the property where other entities can look at whether there's a need that they would have for it?
That's why we're here before the board today. So this property has gone through Clearinghouse. Clearinghouse has recommended that it be surplused, and we're asking at this point for the board's approval to surplus the property. We will, according to our procedures, return to the board after the 45-day legislative notice. We'll return to the board at that time to seek approval of the transaction. So today is surplus, future transaction.
And you're expecting the future transaction to be in the range of $2.3 million?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, because that will be the value once the property is added to the adjoining property.
That is correct. That is correct. I'm also going to point out, I'm going to come back in about 2 months, probably, hopefully not like this, hopefully in person, with property that was appraised at just over $400,000 with a $2.3 million purchase price. That's based upon the key location of this. It's the critical mass of our property makes their property that much more valuable.
Okay. All right. I have questions on 3RP. Madam Treasurer, did you have questions on this one, on 2RP?
No, that actually was my question on 2RP. Thank you.
All right. Regarding 3RP, I believe this UMCPF 4-A LLC is the group that the board, maybe a year ago or more, allowed the university to transfer to this entity. Is that correct?
UMCPF 4 is an affiliate of the Terrapin Development Company. But this particular property we're talking about, because we were before the board, I think it was more than a year, probably 18 months ago, to seek approval of the board to transfer some university properties to TDC. This is actually one of the properties that TDC pre-owned through the foundation. So its ownership of this was not through the university, but they are in fact the owner of this property on the City Hall block in College Park, yes.
Okay, and Terrapin Development is an LLC that is owned by the university and the foundation?
That is correct.
Okay, who's the executive director of that?
Ken Ullman.
Okay, and what is the role of Margrave Strategies in all of this?
Margrave Strategies is a company that is owned and controlled by Mr. Ullman. Beyond that, I don't know the full answer to that question.
Are they?
This transaction doesn't involve Margrave Strategies. The entity that the university is dealing with is Terrapin Development Corporate Company.
Okay, you said you don't know. I missed part of what you just said. You said the entity you're dealing with is Terrapin Development, but you didn't know the role of Margrave Strategies. Is that what you said?
And that is correct. So the university is entering into a contract with TDC. I know that TDC has two members, the university and the foundation. I know that its executive director is Ken Ullman. I know that Ken Ullman is the president of Margrave Strategies. If you want the storytelling to go beyond that, that's sort of the extent of my storytelling knowledge. That's all that I know.
Okay. Now,
Can I interrupt for a minute, Lieutenant Governor? Could I interrupt? Because that's total news to me. I would love to put this item off and understand exactly what you just brought up. if you're interested in doing that. It certainly caught my eye. I had not seen that in the initial documents, so I'm happy to join you if you
My
want to look at
questions,
it.
the reason I'm asking these questions, because I am concerned about potential conflicts of interest. We've had a major issue with and I know it's a separate entity altogether, but they still go under the moniker the University of Maryland, which goes under, a state entity, and that's the University of Maryland Medical Systems. We saw some major challenges there. I'm a little concerned. I was going to ask about the foundation as well, and who is the executive director of the foundation. I think there may be some links there as well. I am very concerned. I've gotten some external complaints or concerns about Margrave and the role that they play, along with the role that Mr. Allman plays in terms of being the executive or strategy director or something of that nature, where he has a position with the university system. It's either as a contractor or as an employee, I don't know. But I am very concerned about what is the appearance of conflicts of interest. And so for both 3 and 4, I think it should be deferred at very best, because I am not prepared to vote in the positive for either one of those.
I would second that, although I know Ken Ullman, obviously a lot of people do in the state, and I'm
I know
not
Ken
suggesting
too.
anything.
I like him personally, but and I'm not, I'm not opposed to people making money, okay? But when it's a state entity involved, I'm just a little more concerned of, the possible conflicts of interest that, and I'll say this, with Joe on the line, is my experience going back to when I was at General Services. The university system sometimes plays a little loose on things and sometimes forgets that they are a state agency. I remember having a conversation with an individual who at the time was a vice president there, and he talked about the state as opposed to the university, and I had to remind them that they were a state institution. So I just get a little concerned about this, and this is a sensitive area as far as I'm concerned.
As far as the university system, we realize that we are a state agency. On the procurement side, we do have our own U.S. procurement policy and procedures, but those procedures do follow pretty much state guidelines. So I don't know that we'll be categorized as loose. We try to do the right thing.
I'm going back several years ago, and just in terms of the approach, and you weren't the vice president at that time that I'm referring to. Also, I mean, when we set up these LLCs under an entity, I'm not sure that their executive director has to file financial disclosure forms or anything of that nature. If they fall under the ethics guidelines, these are things that I really don't know, but it just doesn't sit well with me as I went through this particular project and some of the anecdotal comments I've received from people on the outside.
So the one thing that I
think we need more information with regard to who all is involved in this particular project. What is the role of Margrave Strategies? Who are the directors or the executive directors of the foundation board? If there's some connection there, what is the involvement of Ken Ullman as his official role with the university, director of strategic strategy or something of that nature? How does this all play together? And I'm a little concerned, a lot of concern.
Right. I think I understand what the board is asking for.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm comfortable that I can provide it in the way that will make everybody comfortable here.
Could I just add, I do think it's worthwhile to defer these items so these questions can be addressed and the air cleared on them. This board did acknowledge and the partnership of the foundation and the university a couple of years ago in the creation of Terrapin, which I think has been very good for the university. But in these times, it is always good to address concerns before they become exacerbated. So I personally think the development and the use of Terrapin and its affiliates is a good thing, but agree that there are questions. I didn't know either about Margraves and would like to understand its role better. So thank you. Let me just say right now, this is items 3 and 4, as I understand it. Yeah. I was just going to say in general about the university's items, and this is a different subject altogether. I hope when the university and its affiliates are building capital projects that will last 50 years or more, that you can tell us for each of these projects how it impacts and is impacted by the state's goals regarding energy use, renewable energy, green energy, and climate change. These are things that are going to last a long time. We have hard goals that we are in law addressing, and the university plays a large part in that. And it ought to be, they're not mentioned at all in these items, and I think they should be mentioned in every item. So if you can continue taking that message back to the campuses, Joe, it would be very helpful.
We've tried to put them in the construction one, the capital projects we bring down. So
well, I noticed, I do mean to interrupt you, but sometimes you do point out that these are lead silver or aiming for lead silver. 50 years from now, lead silver will not be particularly helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask a quick
Governor,
question.
I would move to approve the agenda without items 3 and 4, that they be deferred until the treasurer and you and I can be briefed on what the situation is. And but I would approve the other items unless you have other.
I have another question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
5. Don't move so fast. Not so fast.
I want to get back to work on coronavirus.
You got to collect our taxes.
We look forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we got to make sure things don't fall apart while the governor focuses on coronavirus. Number 5 RP. I'm just trying to understand the transaction. The property is being purchased by the University of Maryland or UMB Health Systems Research Corp, a 501c3. They're buying the property above the appraised value, and then they are transferring or selling that property to the university at the appraised value, a difference of $75,000, and then the foundation is contributing $75 to compensate the nonprofit. Why was it done this way? Why wouldn't the university? I mean, you can only, appraised value is what an outsider thinks the property is worth. The real thing is how much the person is willing, or the owner is willing to sell it for. It tells you what the real value of the property is. So the value of the property to the university is $550 million, or not, I'm sorry, $550,000. Is that the university was required to purchase only at the appraised value? Why did they have to do this process?
For this question, I have Luke Mowbray, who is the interim director for real estate and space management here at the university.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you.
Good morning.
Again, this is Luke Mowbray. I am the interim director for real estate planning and space management at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. To answer your question, we received guidance from the USM the system office on real estate transactions. The intent of having this kind of more complicated procedure where RPC purchases it and then we purchase from RPC is exactly what you said, to purchase the property for the appraised value and to make sure that that is the amount that the state pays for the property. So that was the intent there of having RPC purchase first, and our foundation has been very generous and offered to make RPC whole after the transaction.
Okay. All right. So you wanted to stay, as far as the university was concerned, at the appraised value. Okay, that's understandable. Okay. Now, when I saw it, it just a little convoluted process. So, okay, that's my last question with regard to the university system agenda. So we have a motion, I guess, is still on the table to withdraw items 3RP and 4RP, and then approve the remainder of the agenda. Correct? Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, I'm in favor. We're all in favor. Okay, thank
Thanks,
you,
Joe.
Joe.
Thank you.
Maryland Department of Transportation. Is this going well so far? I think,
Good.
Is anybody listening to us? How many people are out there?
Well, I can tell you that my deputy chief of staff is looking at the Wi-Fi broadcast, and she said it's coming across very well. So, yeah, so she's at least one participant. Normally, the folks who run the Wi-Fi know how many people log in. I don't know if it's telling us that at this point. Do we have Greg Slater here from?
Most of the people who usually watch in are telecommuting today, teleworking.
Teleworking for transportation, just like state troopers are teleworking.
Morning, this is Greg. Can
we
you hear
have
me?
100 people have logged in to watch it via the webcast. So
Excellent.
that's about what I think is normal for. We'll come back to transportation since it appears that no one is on from transportation yet.
Greg,
Wait a minute.
Good,
Are you on?
Good morning. Can you hear me? It's telling me that I can't. Somebody on that end has to turn on my webcam share ability.
We'll get right on it.
Okay, it's probably our systems person.
Is that Secretary Slater?
It is.
Why don't we just go forward with audio if possible?
I'm happy to do it.
You just identify yourself and we go forward.
Absolutely. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor, Madam Treasurer, Mr. Comptroller. For the record, my name is Greg Slater, Secretary, Maryland Department of Transportation. The Maryland Department of Transportation is presenting 12 items today. We have a number of folks on the phone to answer any questions. One thing that I will point out specifically for you, Madam Treasurer, is this is the last procurement that you will see from us over at MTA for rolling stock that does not have an electric option to it. So all contracts moving forward will have that option.
good news, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay. For a change, and I don't want either one of the constitutional officers to have a heart attack, I don't have any questions on this agenda item.
Move approval, Governor. I mean, that's, yeah. And you've noticed how quiet I've been during the meeting.
I know, something's going on with you.
I will second that, but I do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay.
Brief. One, Greg, I just hope in the future, the same thing that I asked of the university, that when we see projects, we will see both their impact on and impact by climate change and impact on the energy goals that are set out in law. There are a number of these, and you just mentioned a very significant accomplishment. These should be these should be noted as we go forward, but towards electrification of the fleet and towards improvement of our capital projects so that they're fit for the next 50 years. And that includes dealing with problems like the taxis and Uber and Lyft at the airport. What we are doing to encourage, we're encouraging traffic by bringing these people in. We have to make sure that it's in conformity with our goals as well. But the other question I wanted to ask Greg, and this is unexpected and I don't expect an answer now, but I'd like you to come back to us. The question has arisen about the cost to the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission and the ratepayers of the changes they're going to have to make in major lines, major pipelines along the 270 corridor as we go forward with our project. And there have been some numbers thrown around in the press, $2 billion cost to the ratepayers over 40 years. I'd just like to know what it's all about. So if you could have somebody come back at the next meeting, it would be helpful, I think.
Sure, I can certainly address it a little bit now. We're so early in the process, we really don't know what any of those impacts will be. The utility situation on the top side of the Beltway is very different than it is on 270, where we're focused right now. I actually have a meeting set up with some leadership at WSSC to kind of talk through how we can work together, but avoidance, much like we do with some of our natural resources, is going to be our critical approach from the beginning so that we don't disrupt them any more than we have to.
We would really appreciate it. $2 billion sounds like a lot of money for the ratepayers to pay, and then you notice it's over 40 years, which makes a significant difference. I'd like to just get the facts out.
Sure, absolutely. I'll be sure to prepare some materials.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, one quick point. Well, no, I was looking at the next agenda. I think, did we have a motion to approve?
I would move to approve.
Okay, second. Okay, I think we're all in favor, so we'll move on to general services. Before Secretary Churchill comes on, Madam Treasurer, I'm going to ask Secretary Churchill about a discussion that he and I had a little while ago. I also had a conversation with Secretary Hadaway Riccio with regard to the purchase of electric trucks. Ford has a pickup truck, and I know we were going to look at that. Right. We could possibly start in our Annapolis, since we have the charging station here, but at least start in our Annapolis location, because they do use pickup trucks. And there was some conversation of using some of the proceeds from the Volkswagen to do that. So
right. That would be great.
I saw the secretary was coming online. I'm sorry.
Secretary Brinkley was talking about driving a Ford F-150 at some point in the future, I think. So yeah. Others can use these trucks too.
Yeah, he's a future farmer of America.
Turn us loose.
Okay. Secretary Churchill.
Good morning, Lieutenant Governor, Madam Treasurer, Mr. Comptroller. For the record, I'm Ellington Churchill, Secretary for the Maryland Department of General Services. The department has 34 items on our agenda today, including 2 supplementals. Revisions have been submitted for 16, 30, and 34, and the department is withdrawing item 4 and 12. And we can answer questions at this time.
I know last week or 2 weeks ago, the comptroller mentioned that Delmarva Community Services, we have another CGL for them, and the great work that Santo Grande does there. The intergenerational facility that they're building there is going to be a wonderful addition to the Dorchester County and the Cambridge area. Santo does a very good job. I visited him several times, was there for the groundbreaking of the facility. They ran into a challenge with regard to the costs associated with steel. Steel went up and with some of the tariffs. And so I was glad that we were able to put in our capital budget additional money to compensate for that and make sure that the project continued to go forward. So I don't know if Santo is on the line. It's not necessary, but I did want to give a shout out to all the good work that they're doing, and particularly
representation from it is not available. Mr. Santos is not available.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just giving him kudos there.
It was there at the last meeting, I think. Was it the last meeting?
Yes.
And
Yes.
And very much appreciated.
Okay, well, good. I have a question on 10 AE.
Okay. 10 AE having to do with architectural services for multiple construction projects. Yes, sir.
Right, it's a modification. My question is on the compliance with MBE. The goal is 30%, but they're at 0, and we're modifying, putting more money into this?
I'm going to ask that Lauren Buckler come to the mic. She's the Assistant Secretary for Capital Construction, and she can explain this. Yep, go ahead.
Good morning, members of the Board of Public Works. Lauren Buckler, Assistant Secretary for Design, Construction, and Energy. I have a feeling that we have a correction to the record to make. I know that it is not 0 on the task orders that we've done. We do a task order by task order assessment to assign an MBE goal when we use the architectural contract. So we will get back to you with a correction on what the percentage is currently.
Okay, thank you. And then just a follow-up question to that, are any of these prime contractors MBE or certified small businesses?
Yes, when we did this procurement originally, we did a subset of the procurement for small business reserve. So we required a portion of the participants to be small business in order to be on this master contract. So it's about half of the list, but we can give you the ones that are and are not small business reserve.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you just let me know which ones are either small business or MBEs or both.
We'll do that.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question on 12S, which is a service contract, opioid crisis campaign, system-wide campaign.
12S has been withdrawn.
Oh, it was? Okay, all right. I guess I missed that part. And then 14S.
14S having to do with statewide opioid awareness. I believe we have David Dimbra or Margie Donahue, who is the contract monitor for the department.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Margie Donahue.
Good morning.
Board, I'm happy to respond to questions on 14S. 12S was indeed withdrawn, and we'll be happy to answer questions about that at a subsequent time, Mr. Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. This is a sole source 14S. Why is it a sole source? The document says they're the only company that provides this service.
Yes, it's a very unusual advertising campaign that is made uniquely available by PSN. What they do is public service announcements and audio messaging of patients while they are at the pharmacy or at a doctor's office or an urgent care center. They reached 62 million impressions, and last year, on their last contract at least, they did 20 million extra. It's a very effective advertising campaign because you're reaching the patient at the time that they're going to be inquiring about excessive opioid prescriptions, and it is a unique provider.
Okay, and so they basically have a monopoly on those doctor commercials that, you know, I've been in the doctor's office and seen these like rolling commercials. Usually it's like health stuff, and you know, ask your doctor X. So they have the monopoly on all that?
I believe that is the case. Ms. Donahue, I'll ask if you have anything to add.
PSN came to us as a recommendation from SAMHSA as well. They are uniquely qualified to deliver health-related messages. I know that there are commercial type ads appearing in doctors' offices as well, but these are regarding health-specific public service announcements.
Yeah, no, I believe I've seen probably these ads because they really weren't marketing a product, but just talking about good living. Now, it's all federal funds. Do you know if this is part of the SOARS money from a couple of years ago?
Yes, that is correct. This is funding from SOAR Year 2.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you. That's a good deal if they have the monopoly on that. I guess it's pretty good.
Mr. Lieutenant Governor, if you don't mind my saying so, to answer an earlier question, this WebEx is working extremely well. My commendations to Secretary Gontram. Audio and video are both very clear. This is a very efficient way of conducting your broadcast, and it's appreciated.
Thank you, Dana. It's always
That
good to hear
voice,
from you.
Lieutenant Governor, if I could interrupt, that voice, of course, is former Delegate Dana Dembrow, who
No, I know. I
Treasurer
recognize.
and I served with, and I particularly have a very fond view of Delegate Dembrow, and I'm glad that he's working for your administration because he's a very talented individual.
Thank you, Mr. Controller.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Okay, last but not least, my last question, and then I'll turn it over to others.
I was just going to say, Governor, that I believe that Delegate Dembrow was my little brother when he was a new delegate. And
it's correct, Madam Treasurer. We were assigned mentors when I was first elected. I was very pleased to have you assigned to be my mentor, and you still are.
I can see what good it's done. Thank you. Sorry, Governor.
Okay. All right. My last question, and I'll turn it over to the others. 23 IT 1.1. This is the Skyline Network Engineering contract.
Correct, and we have Secretary Leahy from the department available to speak.
Good morning, Mr. Governor.
Good morning.
Mr. Comptroller. Yes, sir. What questions would you like to ask about the Skyline contract?
I get it might. I'll get to the bottom line. Why wasn't this contract rebid? It started at $42.5 million. There was a $12 million modification. Oh, wait a minute. Was it $29 million mod?
Yes, sir. And this is for $12 million.
And this one is 12. So there was a $29 million mod done previously, and now we're 12 million. That we're close to doubling the original contract, with one more year being extended onto the term. Why did we not rebid this and start maybe a year ago in that bidding process?
Well, we actually have been working on the RFP for some time. As you're aware, this coming year's budget also includes us taking various items out of what is part of this contract and building our own security operations center. So we thought it best to keep things in place as they're currently existent, and the RFP will be going out in the next month or so, sir.
Okay, all right. On a side note, my office is scheduling a conference call with you and Bob Gleason to look at our processes and procedures for contracting, awarding, bidding, information technology contracts. The flow chart I saw is too convoluted, and I think we need to utilize lean methods, Lean Six Sigma, to eliminate some of the steps that are clearly unnecessary. So we're going to bring in our Office of Performance Improvement to look at re-engineering that process so that we can move a little bit quicker. My experience on the federal level is that we don't need as many steps, as many people looking at the same procurement 2 and 3 times. And it makes it difficult. So we'll be talking about that in the next couple of days.
Looking forward to the discussion, sir.
Okay.
Let me just thank you for taking that on. I think the secretary would agree the process, this is a time of transition still. And the process is just, it needs clarification. Could I also put in a plug that it also needs enough people to make it work, the right people to make it work.
Yeah.
And we have to be competitive in the IT market. And I'm afraid that at this moment, we really are not. And it's impacting the entire state, as you know, as you well know.
Right. Right.
Anything we can do to help, I'm sure that that will be there.
Okay. Yeah, we know that we have particularly salary challenges, but we also, and we've addressed part of that on the procurement side because we still have salary challenges on the procurement side, but we're getting a little better. But it's now bringing in the talent and making sure we keep our talent that can do this work. So I appreciate that. Any other questions on general services?
I would move approval. I'm sorry, go ahead, Madam Chair.
Let me just ask a question that I think the comptroller will be interested in also. Item 34. I just want to make sure that the item that we have, this is the Sunflower Bakery.
Yeah.
Sunflower Bakery, yes.
This is everything that's needed to have Sunflower go ahead with its project.
That's correct.
Great, very good, very worthwhile project that I know the comptroller and I have supported for some time.
I believe the council member that worked for us.
That's the one.
Mr. Friedson is involved in this, and yes, I'm very pleased to join in support of that. And you know, everybody at the local level is working very hard to help these small businesses.
Okay, very good.
But I just mentioned, Governor, you mentioned the tax collector. We're processed more than 1 million returns. We still are urging people to file electronically for refunds because we're going to give out a total of $3 billion in refunds. We're basically 2/3 that way through, but people should file if we owe them a refund. Yesterday, we announced with the IRS that we're going to extend the April 15th deadline to July 15th. That in effect is a 90-day 0% interest loan to corporations, businesses, and individuals. So we're hoping that that will help folks stabilize the local economy also. Obviously, we play this by ear and we're in touch with the executive and with the legislative branches, but there is a continued extension of these business taxes and now personal income taxes that I think will benefit the state greatly by keeping cash in people's hands, in pockets, keep it in their pockets.
Well, and that's a good point, particularly those who are expecting a return to go get it filed and file online now so that they can get this turned around. Your office does a great job of turning it around fairly quickly. So, you know, encouraging people to do that, file your taxes, as well as fill out your census. So thank you. Did we get a motion on the DGS agenda?
I would move approval of the Secretary's agenda, of the DGS agenda.
Second.
Okay, well, thank you. And from what I can tell, this first virtual Board of Public Works has gone very well without any hitches, just a little delays, but that's expected. And so I want to thank the Treasurer and Comptroller for participating. This has been good. I do prefer to have all of us together, but this has been great and
Pretty
comfortable.
efficient.
Very
Thank
efficient.
I don't mean to sound surprised, but I'm stunned that it actually worked. No, I'm kidding. This is terrific. And to the 100 people out there, please spread the word that we're doing our best in the midst of a lot of, frankly, chaos and crisis. And I couldn't agree more with the Lieutenant Governor. This was, it was hard to pull off, put it that way, because it's the first time we've done it.
And thanks to John Gontram, too.
I was going to say something. John was a little nervous yesterday, or maybe it was the day before when we were testing. And I said, John, we should publicize this. He said, maybe the second time. He didn't.
Also, John had an assistant, James, who I have a lot of confidence in. Point du jour, I think is his last name.
Okay.
Excellent staff person.
All right. Well, thank you all, and stay safe and support those small businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.